this is really to show that Czech nymphs don't have to all be tied without beads. There are versions where you just need to get your fly down even closer to the bottom, and lead wire is just not enough. So there are versions of this fly that combine with beads and lead in order to get your fly even closer to the bottom where those fish might be feeding. So hook-wise, we're back on the Sprite buzzer hook, and we've added a fully milled tungsten bead. You'll see that it's countersunk in gold rather than slotted. I prefer countersunk for this as everything will just sit a bit nicer on the hook. Thread-wise, we've got the Semperfli wax silk in orange, and we're going to add that in a second. But first, there's quite an interesting way and one to make sure that you're maximizing your weight potential in the fly. Add a band of wire, wrapping this round, and build up quite a nice amount, about half of the hook shank. And then, this bit's key, using your thumbnail you can just push that in, and that locks the bead in position, but it also means that your lead wire is not taking up as much room. Start your thread at the back of the wire. Just create a little section there, and then take your thread over the top. And now you can wind back to the extent of the bend and trim out the tag end there. And then we're going to tie in our back material, which is the Semperfli ultra thin skin in golden brown. And as with the previous versions, we cut a point into the shell back there, offer it up to the hook and allow it to rotate into position on top of the shank. Bring our thread back forward all the way to the front, and as with the previous fly, we're going to dub our fly in reverse. Starting with our buggy dubbing by Nature's Spirit, that African goat in Canadian Leech brown. Really is a great thorax dubbing for a whole manner of flies. You'll see it. I use it quite a lot. Get a really good covering. We're going to need a fair bit on this fly, so get some nice turns near the bead there, build up a reasonable amount of bulk. Don't worry again about too many loose fibers, they're great for the fly. Add in some more dubbing here. And there we have it. We've got that in place. Now we're going to add in our next dubbing, which is from the Semperfli Sparkle Dubbing box, and it's burnt orange. It's quite a long fibre dubbing, so what I like to do is just pull it apart. It gives you slightly shorter fibres. Get that tight noodle in at the top and bind down the other parts, and then lay those turns on top of one another, and that's created your hot spot there. And now we're going to add in our final part of the body, which is the Semperfli Superfine dubbing in tan. As I said previously, I like this Superfine long strand dubbing for Czech Nymphs because the dubbing is much easier to control than short strand dubbings. So build up these first turns. You want it to try and be tapering down from that thorax and hotspot area. There you go. If you ever need to add any more, that's not a problem. Take a small pinch, bind it down there, and throw those extra turns in. Right. Now at this point you can tease out a couple of extra fibers that will help towards the end of the flight. Take that first turn underneath the back and then begin to wind round that first segment and then just increasing them slightly, and one on either side of the hotspot. Actually bounced a little bit. Just going to put, not quite happy with where they are, so back wind once until you're happy with where your turns are going. Place the locking turns in place and just trim the back out there. A couple of locking turns in, and then what I like to do for this particular fly, just to make sure that you don't have any messy change in thickness, is add a tiny little band of your thorax dubbing just in the front. That will help just tidy up if there's any change in thickness on the fly, and then wind down with your orange thread to create a second hot spot just at the front there. And get your whip finish tool, and there you have it. That's the Charged Czech Nymph, if you will, and we can try and tease out some of those fibers with our dubbing needle. Try and get some of the hot spot to come out as well, just so you've got a range of colours in those long fibres that will flutter about in the water and prove enticing to any watching trout or grayling. But again, a great fly, particularly if you need to get down to the bottom of the river. That won't hang about.